doesn't get old to say Happy New Year to the people you talk to for the first time in the new year. So, how are you today?
Yeah, same. Happy New Year. I am good. As we talked about off air, we got a whole balmy 13 degrees outside. We're warming up today.
Yeah, thawing out a little bit, as much as you can thaw out in sub freezing temperatures, but we'll take it. It's better than -5 that we've had the last few days, if you will. But at any rate, Caitlin, let's dive in. We've got some great topics to dive into with you today. Let's start out with February is Heart Month, and of course, this is a big topic within nutrition circles and wellness circles and all those things. Heart Month. Tell us about this.
Yeah, so we've got just a few more weeks of January left, and then we'll be into February, which is American Heart Month. And that's always a great time to talk about cardiovascular disease and high blood pressure and high cholesterol and different heart conditions. For myself in the nutrition space, of course, we tend to talk about food choices. And so I want to share 4 different food swaps that you can work on for your heart health. I know for myself, I've got family history of both high blood pressure and high cholesterol. So we'll see how I manage that in the coming months or coming decades of my life and my health. So the 4 that I'm going to talk about are fiber, fat, sodium, and added sugar. So with heart health, on the food and the diet perspective, we're generally looking at blood cholesterol, which is the amount of different types of fats that are found in your blood. And we know that high levels of those fats tend to raise the risk of things like heart attack and stroke, where we're blocking off the blood vessels to the heart and the brain. And of course, that is not a good thing. And then the other piece is high blood pressure, which is what it sounds like. The pressure of the blood inside your vessels is forced outward. And when you've got really high pressure, there's just a lot of internal force going on in your body. And so we can manage those with these 4 things that we're going to talk about. So let's start with fat. So the types of fat that we're looking for to improve blood cholesterol levels are more liquid, what I call liquid fats. Their name is unsaturated fats, and these are fats that generally are liquid at room temperature. So we can think about oils that sit in our pantry. So olive oil, canola oil, really any oil that you like to cook with or use is going to be a great option. They're very high in these liquid or unsaturated fats. So when you are cooking or adding fats to your food products, oils are a great swap compared to solid fats like butter, margarine, or shortening, which are more saturated, meaning they're more solid. Solid fats do raise the cholesterol numbers of our blood, so that is something that we can do a quick swap of. So for example, if you are making a soup, I think we're going to talk about soup later. If you are adding in some fat like butter to saute your onions and your celery and your garlic, instead you can swap in oil. You can do 100% swap if that works for you, or you can do a little 50-50 swap, so half butter, half oil. I know butter does impart flavors that a lot of oils tend to be pretty neutral in flavor. They don't have a ton of that. Another swap would be on nuts and seeds. So nuts and seeds, so peanuts, sunflower seeds, pistachios, walnuts. These are also foods that are high in these unsaturated or liquid fats. Of course, we don't see them as liquid because we're we're crunching on these nuts and seeds, so we don't see that liquid, but they are more of an unsaturated fat. So again, this is a great swap. So if you are someone that enjoys doing a bagel, maybe with cream cheese as maybe a breakfast or a lunch item or a snack item, occasionally try a swap with maybe peanut butter. So that peanut butter is going to have more of those unsaturated fats. The cream cheese, because it's made from cream, is going to be higher in those more solid fats, very similar to butter. We can also do swaps for fish. So fish is a great lean source of protein, especially whitefish. But when we're looking at fat, we want to do more fatty fish. So salmon is probably the most popular fatty fish that we have on the market. So that's a great swap. So you don't have to do fish every single day. The recommendation is about 8 ounces per week, which is pretty small. in comparison. If you think about the size of your hand, you can probably fit a full 8 ounces in your hand, depending on the size of it. So doing more of those unsaturated swaps, so things like oils, nuts and seeds, and fish are going to be great additions to add healthy fats for high cholesterol.
Very good. Good things to consider there, Caitlin. When it comes to that cholesterol piece, sometimes that's one that kind of flies under the radar. As I start to think about my health and stuff, as I age but try to be active in things. I think about calories and proteins and carbs and all of that. But keeping track of cholesterol, I was kind of thinking this the other day as I was working out, like. That's one I really haven't even thought about, but cholesterol is probably one we need to think about a little more. How about that one?
And so that's a great reason to kind of celebrate American Heart Month. And the challenge, I'll call it the challenge of nutrition science, is things do change over the decades. And so many decades ago, the recommendation for heart health was to limit cholesterol in food. So eggs are probably what most people think of. Eggs have a very high amount of what we call dietary cholesterol. So it's just the cholesterol that's found in the food. Cholesterol is used to make your cell walls. It's involved in hormone production. So it is important to our body. And the thinking many decades ago was that eating animal products, which have their own cholesterol, was increasing the blood cholesterol. And we know now that dietary cholesterol doesn't raise blood cholesterol the same way that our saturated or more solid fats do. So you'll see more recommendations now of, have eggs, enjoy eggs more if you do have heart disease. So you do have cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. You may still want to kind of play around with how many eggs or things you can eat without raising your blood cholesterol. But generally, the research is showing that dietary cholesterol, the foods that have cholesterol that we eat, are not as big of an impact. We get to focus instead more on making those swaps from saturated or solid fats to more unsaturated fats.
Very good. Caitlin, anything else to consider when we talk about food swaps that we haven't touched on today?
So I want to talk about sodium, which we'll talk a little bit about when we talk soups too. Sodium is a piece of heart health that we want to talk about, and generally this is attributed to high blood pressure. Some people are what are called salt sensitive or sodium sensitive, where high intakes of salty foods that contain sodium does raise their blood pressure. Not everybody is this sensitive, but it's worth checking out. If you do have high blood pressure, reducing sodium is a great way to kind of test and see, are you maybe salt sensitive, and you could benefit by reducing sodium in your food products. Most of the time, we don't get a ton of sodium from salt that we add in cooking. Majority of the sodium and the salt that we see is from food production or food processing that we eat. So we go have a frozen dinner, which is generally pretty high in sodium. We buy different processed products that have a lot of sodium. So some swaps would be to look for either low sodium options or even reduced sodium options. So chicken broth or beef broth is usually look right next, from left to right, check and see, can you find the regular broth, and then can you find the reduced sodium option? Pick that one out. Same for different canned products. So canned vegetables or I love that tomato sauce has really gone for the low sodium option. I love seeing when I go buy, I can buy tomato juice or tomato sauce or different tomato products with less sodium. So those are always a great way to do those easy swaps. You can just buy them already as is with less sodium. And do be patient. Your tongue will adjust to less sodium. I know the first couple of days you're going to go, oh, this doesn't have the right flavor to it. But do give yourself some patience. Your body will and your tongue will adjust to less sodium over time. So those are great things to promote your heart health, reducing that fat, reducing that sodium. And then we can talk another time about fiber and added sugar for heart health someday.
Okay, that sounds good. One thing you were talking about in the low sodium option, and you mentioned the soups, we could transition to that if you'd like. But with the broths, I think you mentioned mentioned this, was the broths going low sodium. That's one where you really could implement a low sodium option. And for me, I've done that a little bit unintentionally, largely because that's about the only thing that I could find on a given day at the grocery store. But I didn't really notice a difference in the flavor switching to a broth of low sodium.
Yeah, and that's really, I mean, there's a lot of these swaps where the reduction is not generally super noticeable, which is really the intention of those food companies. They want to, provide a healthier option, but make it so that you don't notice that reduction in any flavor changes, because that is their goal. They still want you to buy that product. So yeah, even something like soy sauce. You can have regular soy sauce and you can find reduced sodium soy sauce. For me, at least, I do notice a very big difference when I go from regular to reduced sodium. I find the regular sodium incredibly salty for my own personal palate. So I appreciate having the reduced sodium as an option.
Very good. Well, let's dive into that soup nutrition with Caitlin Mellendorf, nutrition educator, U of I Extension in DeWitt, Macon, and Piatt counties. Let's talk soup nutrition, Caitlin, and how about this topic?
Yeah, so it is cold. So I imagine a lot of people are in the soup mood, maybe some stews. And so I thought this would be a great time to chat about how to make shopping for prepared soups healthier, and also making your homemade soups a little healthier. So starting with shopping for canned soup, so in a can, or there are more refrigerated options. So I know I'll walk through my deli section and I'll see different refrigerated containers of pre-made soups that you just need to reheat. And the big thing that we're looking there is sodium. That is generally what makes the broth very tasty, is a lot of that salt. So look for reduced sodium options if they exist. Generally, the canned foods, you will find lower sodium options, which is great. Try them out. Again, your taste buds will adjust to that less sodium over time. So the first couple of tries, you may go, oh, this doesn't taste quite right, but give yourself some patience and some time. Your taste buds will adjust. Also, for the serving size, a lot of canned soups and prepared soups, they will do generally 2 servings per can, which, depending on the person, a lot of us will just open the entire and eat the entire can. So when you're looking at sodium, just know that if you're going to eat the entire can, double check on the label. Was that label written for 2 portions in that can rather than 1? So just know that if that's the case and you plan to eat the whole can, your sodium will double because you plan to eat twice as much. So you'll have extra sodium in there. Also for nutrition, make sure you're pairing that soup with something else. A lot of soups are pretty low in fat and protein. And generally fiber as well. So they've got some carbohydrates. It might be like a noodle-based soup. It might be a beef-based, so there's a little bit of protein in there, but it's generally not very much. So I really like encouraging folks, if you're going to have soup, pair it with something else. I think at least maybe it's a Midwest thing, maybe it's not, of tomato soup and a grilled cheese sandwich or cheese toasty. So having a little bit of extra fat with the cheese, a little bit of protein with that cheese, along with the soup, is a great pairing. You can also do, we hear about soup and salad, so you can certainly add a little bit of extra fiber by doing a soup and salad pairing, or even doing crackers. I'm a big fan of cheese and crackers with soup. That just seems to be something that I enjoy. So having a little bit of extra nutrition. A lot of soups are pretty low in calories, which is fine on their own. But if you notice that just eating that soup doesn't get you very far and you're hungry, an hour or 2 later, next time have that soup with a little bit of extra food, a little bit of extra fat, fiber, and protein. And that should kind of lengthen, make you feel a little bit more satisfied when you're eating.
Sure. Very good. Well, Caitlin, I'll tell you what. I look at the clock. I don't mean to interrupt this conversation. I should have taken a break earlier, but we'll do that now, and we'll wrap that up when we come back. Caitlin Mellendorf, nutrition educator with U of I Extension in DeWitt, Macon, and Piatt counties. Our guest on the phone. More to come with Caitlin on the WHOW Morning Show.
WHOW. Exclusive benefits. Let's check the markets now on the RFD Radio Network. I'm Jim Taylor. Corn higher, beans lower, wheat trading higher. March corn up 4 1/4, 447 3/4. May corn 459 up 3 3/4. December new crop 479 3/4 up 2 1/2. March beans 12.13 down 14 1/4. May beans down 13, 12.25 1/2. November new crop 11.93 1/2 down 7 3/4. March wheat 5.92 1/4 up 10 1/4. July wheat up 5 3/4, 6.11. March bean meal 365.30 down 5.80. March bean oil down a dime, 47.15. Livestock market at the sour. January feeders 227.80 up a quarter. February live cattle down 40 cents, 172.72. February lean hogs 70.25 down 52 cents. Energy market February crude oil 71.01 down $1.39. You're listening to the RFD Radio.
The days are getting shorter, and as we prepare to spend more time inside, that means respiratory infections like cough, cold, fever, and the flu. Warner Hospital CEO Paul Scarwin here to remind you our walk-in clinic is here to treat those respiratory infections quickly and close to home. And the best part is no appointment is needed. The Warner Hospital walk-in clinic just inside our family medicine building in Clinton can treat you for those symptoms without an appointment. Get to the Warner Hospital walk-in clinic and get feeling better fast.
For the latest in Central Illinois agricultural news, visit IllinoisFarmRadio.com. Get updated information on markets, weather, ag news, local interviews with NAFB farm broadcaster Jared White, and much, much more. All at IllinoisFarmRadio.com.
Connexus will provide local, reliable, affordable, and speed-of-light fiber internet to Clinton. Get on the install list now by clicking the Connexus icon at DeWittDailyNews.com. Fiber internet is coming to Clinton. Get on the install list now.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Again, my guest on the phone today, Caitlin Mellendorf, nutrition educator with the University of Illinois Extension in DeWitt, Macon, and Piatt counties. Caitlin, we left off talking about soup nutrition, and you were talking about some homemade soup ideas. How about that, so very quickly, to wrap up that discussion?
Yeah, so I'm going to just keep hammering home with the sodium today. We're going to talk about heart health and soup. So when you're making soups at home, we talked about this with Heart Month. Easy swaps for reducing sodium with homemade soups is going to be using lower sodium options. So check for lower sodium broths in your store. Or if you make your own, just make sure not to add very much salt. And then if you're using canned vegetables or canned beans in your soup, give those a rinse. There's some research to show that you can reduce the sodium in those canned vegetables and beans by about 30 to 40%, which is great. Any reduction is going to be an awesome thing. And then if you're having a cream-based soup, that's going to be potentially higher in fat. So if you're looking to also reduce the fat in your cream-based soups, one swap that I really like is evaporated milk. So exactly what it sounds like. We've taken some of the water out of that milk, and so we're condensing it. So it's a little bit thicker. It's not quite cream, but you can still use something like a 2% evaporated milk, and you get that nice creamy texture. So I know when I do things like broccoli cheddar soup, or if I do, I've got a white chicken chili that's kind of a mix between soup and chili. Evaporated milk is a really great substitute for those cream-based soups. So check those out. Try those things. Always check out our website for different recipes. We are slowly adding to our recipe database online, so you can find us at extension.illinois.edu/food.
Very good. Thanks for putting that out there, by the way. That's where I was going to go next, and plenty of great resources there as well. So check that out if you're interested. Caitlin, anything else on healthy soups and just kind of soup nutrition? Anything we didn't touch on you want to put out there for us?
Definitely check out classes that are around the state. So if we've got listeners that are beyond the DeWitt, Macon, and Piatt County areas, we've got a lot of our different staff around the state right now that are doing classes about soup. So you can always check those out around the state.
Very good. Caitlin, let's wrap up talking about supporting farmers in the winter and supporting local farms in the winter. How do we do this? It's kind of out of season, if you will, for farms and farmers markets and that sort of thing. So how do we do this?
Yeah, so it is definitely snow on the ground, at least here in our Decatur office. So the great option, even though we don't have crops growing actively in the ground, you might still look around the state and find indoor farmers markets. So we're taking some of those vendors from outdoors in the summer. We're just bringing those indoors for any products that those farmers have left. So that might include different root crops. So sweet potatoes, winter squash, carrots, those root crops are things that hold over really well. They store really nicely. And so you may have farmers that have grown those that are going to be able to still provide those. You also may have farmers that are selling products like honey, which is pretty much the toughest thing that exists, I think, for food. It just lasts forever. You also find preserved foods, so folks that made jams or jellies, or maybe have meat that they've preserved. Maybe they've got even like frozen meat that they're still selling from the summer, or even eggs. And of course, a lot of us have chickens around, whether it's a farm or on in town property. So you may have farmers that are selling eggs and also having like grains or flour. So there's different local mills in the state that you can support by purchasing their products, whether it's at an indoor farmers market or shopping with them online.
Very good. Very good. Caitlin, excuse me, as we wrap up here for this morning, about a minute left with you. What did I not touch on this morning that you want to get to today? Anything come to mind to wrap us up for the day?
Ooh, that's a good one. I feel like I need to do something about the weather because it's so cold. But let's go for American Heart Month in February.
Sure.
So check out different events that are going on around town. I will be actually in Decatur on February the 10th. If folks want to come out, there is a event with HSHS. Hospital in Decatur at the Decatur Indoor Sports Center on February 10th at 8. There's a walk, and then I will be one of the vendors at the health fair, so you can come talk to me about more heart health stuff.
All right, very good. And Caitlin, just where do folks go to find all things Heart Month, nutrition, the like, through the extension? How do they get there? Where do they find it?
So, of course, check us out on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, which is, I believe, now X. And find us at extension.illinois.edu. And locally, you can find us at go.illinois.edu/DMP for DeWitt, Macon, Payette.
Very good, Caitlin. Thank you for making time for us. Great stuff as always. We'll talk to you next month.
Thanks so much.
That is Caitlin Mellendorf, nutrition educator, U of I Extension in DeWitt, Macon, and Payette counties. Our guest, the morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Network news on the way.